Here we go.
So this is Coach Stacy with H45 Velocity Coaching. I have a passion to help you get your power back in exercise, nutrition, and mindset. And I'd like to introduce Gavin Badillo.
Hello, my name is Gavin Badillo, and I'm here. We're actually currently at The Corner, associated with the AZ Advisory Group, and I mostly just help businesses with their technology, marketing, and training needs. And what we do at The Corner is help subcontractors in the construction demographic with non-field work. So happy to be here to talk about fitness and kind of talk more about how you can be accountable in doing fitness while you're working.
I do, side note, I love this building. If you do have a non-work site need to host your business here, right? Basically?
Yeah, and we also have event space. So if you need to use it for employee meetings or even more fun activities, like we've had parties here, birthday parties, bridal showers. We even had some singers come through the building. Recently on March 1st, we had a women's Planting Seeds of the Future event to kind of help celebrate that. Lots of different things going on.
I could honestly say I've been to 3 different types of events hosted here, and they've all been fabulous. It's a great space. They've not left anything out. There's nothing they haven't thought of. So it's a very well thought out building and very usable space. So
Yeah. But I'm excited to talk more about fitness.
Yes, okay, let's go.
So, when Stacy reached out to me to talk, one of the things that we were connecting around was how to be accountable in the workspace around actually meeting fitness goals. And it reminded me of a coworker actually recently, Carl Bowden, who's been so diligent, consistent, and intentional about making sure to take walks every single workday. He always spends time kind of being in touch with nature to kind of with his emphasis on nature conservation, which is in line with his exemplified business. So I've always been admiring his dedication to that, you know?
I heard you, did you guys pick up on what I just picked up? I heard probably more than 2 things, at least 3. So one, I know Carl also, very disciplined, also a coach, and have a lot of respect, and definitely admire him, and I get to meet him at a lot of the business events locally also.
Yeah, like Viva and stuff. Yeah.
I consider him a friend. He's just a good all-around good person. But what I heard is he's intentional. There is a level of diligence and discipline in what he does, but he's prioritizing not only his business, but he is internally aware of he has some personal goals also. And we'll get into that more. But the reason I have a passion for exercise, nutrition, and fitness, mindset, as a whole wellness concept is because it is your base. Like if you feel good, you're going to do all other things well, including running your business. And so the fact that he prioritizes time to get outside, to reset, to reground, it likely improves his focus when he does get back in for his own business.
Yeah, and it really makes me think about how you can always find a way to have fitness in your day if you're intentional about it, right? Yeah. Like, for example, his commitment is to those walks, but something that I've done personally to kind of hold myself accountable to some fitness goals is I work with the walking group, or usually about once a week when the weather permits it, we go out with our dogs, or we go hit up a new nature trail, or sometimes even check out art museums that just have enough walk space to generate the kind of time and distance that we need, and that way we kind of hold ourselves accountable to telling each other to get outside and be active and explore new places, because fitness comes in all kinds of styles and all kinds of ways.
Absolutely, yes. So we're going to we need to delve in. So I hope this is piquing your interest or that it resonates with you in some degree, because we're all busy, we're all driven a little bit differently, we all have different goals. And so obviously, like as a coach, anytime you ask me for my expertise and help, number one, my passion, I get really excited about progress, not just mine, but yours. And when we can think tank this and strategize, how do you get better? I get excited about that. So the very first question I'm going to ask you, if you say, I have a goal, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Like you told me you want to, you're known for doing podcasts. Like that is a goal of yours.
Yeah.
It doesn't and I have goals also, and it doesn't make sense for you and I to just talk about them all day. At some point you have to start taking action. But where do you start to actually set yourself up for success?
Well,
and not going in circles. I need to know, what is your objective? What are your top 3 goals? And you better not have more than that. You can, but right now, we're not going to be effective unless we know what the top 3 are. And I have to know, even if it's not related to your goal, because if there are things competing, I need to help you strategize and protect yourself so that you can be successful to reach those top 3.
Yeah, and it really kind of reminds me of what we were talking about before this, about how much procrastination can make you feel like you're doing those things while not literally doing the actions that you need to do to make a real first step.
Are you talking about that mindset?
Well,
that mindset, internal reaction that's procrastination?
Yeah, well, it even reminds me of this walking group, right? Like, for example, one of the barriers we've encountered is when the weather gets really cold, it's really difficult to get them to commit and be consistent around doing activities. So one of the things I've started trying to introduce to them is being aware of more indoor kind of things. For example, the YMCA, they typically have run tracks that are air conditioned and don't, require you to get a full-on winter coat and scarf and all this and that just to be able to do a little bit of walking.
Yes.
So trying to encourage them to think of alternatives where it doesn't matter what the weather is has been a slow road initially so far. I'm still working on it, but I'm hoping to see some progress around it.
So 3 things. Community is very important. That social network is good accountability. But as a coach, I've also seen where it can work against you when that happens. When if the people in the group aren't as tied to their goals as you are, or they haven't made it part of their identity yet, they have not learned the discipline, it runs the risk of diffusing your energy, because if you're always waiting on them to take action, that's a problem. So you still have, the community is very important, the accountability is very important. But then third, you personally still have to have this internal grit linked to your top 3 goals. We're going to get into that a little bit more. And so along with knowing your objective and your top 3 goals, we always, and I think this is an acronym everybody knows, but SMART goals.
Oh, right.
SMART.
Yeah.
Do you want to?
I know I'm offhand. So SMART, starting with S, specific. So just make sure you're being intentional with the words you're using. Don't say something vague. Measurable, so be able to measure your progress so you can see that you're getting closer to the end state that you want to be at. Achievable, which to me is really about making sure that it's possible to achieve. Don't be like, I'm going to get that 18 pack in 2 days. Relevant.
18 of them? Really?
I don't know about that. I'm not a biology expert, but some people's fantasies go wild,
Physiological anatomy.
Right. Then relevant, right? You want to make sure that you have the relevant resources, the relevant access to what you need to be able to do. Like, for example, if your shoes are dress shoes, it's probably not a good idea to walk out in those.
Not for long-term success, no.
Right. And then time-bound, because what's the use of having all this planned out in a goal if you don't have a deadline, right? Because then you can push it into perpetuity.
Yes. So the SMART goal acronym is just a really quick, easy way, because we always want to keep it simple.
Yeah.
Because what you said earlier is that there's this procrastination thing. Well, I guarantee you that procrastination is linked to mindset, a little bit of subconscious, a little bit of how we think, a little bit of how we go to goals, a little bit of internal self-talk can come into play. And so what we want to do is get it to where you're your best advocate, not your worst enemy. Because I know, okay, maybe if we're like in a boxing match, backing into a corner might be a very strategic move. However, when it comes to reaching your goals, it is not a good idea to back yourself into a corner where you're eliminating options. We don't like to do that to ourselves. We like to set ourselves up to be open to success and taking action forward. And we don't want to sabotage ourselves. We don't want to work against our efforts, because when you finally, tell me if I'm wrong, but if you put effort out and you have spent time and discipline to working towards your goal, the last thing you'd want to do is work against yourself, because...
Well, it kind of reminds me of, this is the negative version of it, but it's gambler's fallacy, right? Sucking cost kind of thing, but in a positive light, where if you're spending all these resources, you're spending all this time, you're starting to build the habit of being the person that can be fit like that, you're like, well, I've already done all this, might as well keep going through, rather than, like you're pointing out, you have that negative mind space, you have that self-doubt, you have that procrastination, you have that pushing it off mindset. You're not really ever going to get to that point where you can actually start taking real action, because do you even believe you can take action? like you're saying, mindset and belief is a huge component of even
Yes.
being able to start being fit.
I had to include mindset in this business because there's no way you can reach a goal without also looking at that component. Not to mention, from a health and wellness perspective, I know this might sound weird to some. Maybe it's not common information, but I network with a lot of friends who do functional medicine, doctors, not just medical, or like kinesiology and things like that, and they have all been very clear and consistent in their messaging that absolutely what we do in activity, what we consume, whether it's food or, like even information we surround ourselves with, the way we think, our emotions absolutely affect our health. It just does. And there's certain things like when we have dysfunctions in the body, even like for example, for just an example, I'll just be transparent here. So I have thyroid issues run on both sides of my family.
Right.
And so it was obviously a concern to me. At one point, this was over a decade ago, probably over 2 decades ago, I had a doctor try to prescribe me a generic form of medication for hypothyroidism, sluggish thyroid, not a fast one. So a lot of people think, oh, you're fit, so that must mean if you're talking about thyroid issues, it must be hyper. And I'm like, no. That's actually, so I share this often because if I can I've had 6 children, I have 7 grandkids.
Wow.
Right? Okay, so, because they multiply, and I love family, that's why I had children, and thyroid issues on both sides of my family. Well, a functional medicine doctor looked at me, he's like, you're never going to address that issue unless you address how you manage stress in your life. And at that point, it was frustrating to hear because I'm like, I'm doing everything I know how to do, and I feel kind of gifted in this area, so I felt like I was pretty up to date on everything that I could possibly do to help myself with that from a wellness perspective.
Right.
But a lot of what you keep saying, we don't want to procrastinate. We don't want to have this negative mindset come in and
doubt it yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to always come from a perspective of knowing ourselves, learning who we are, and then going back to those SMART goals, seeking out the resources that will help us, whether it's a coach that has a little bit of expertise. So you're not doing it alone, because I will tell you, as a coach, I don't guess. You're not hiring me to guess. And so there's...
Hiring there to know.
Yes, to know. To know what's happening. When you give me feedback, this is what I'm doing, and you're honest about it. And then we're looking literally with a BMI SMART body scale. How is the body responding to your exercise and your efforts? Those numbers tell me things. So I don't go based on opinions or our emotions, oh man, you've been working so hard, and no, let's look at the numbers, let's look at the facts, let's look at the feedback.
Let's look at the actions.
I call it feedback because whether it's negative or positive, it's just feedback. We're not going to get offended. We're just going to use that data and we're going to take action right away. Right now, while the circumstances and dynamics stay the same, and we're going to keep working to step you forward into that. Instead of letting the resistance push you back, we've got to be willing to push forward through it. But you mentioned something earlier, and it was a conversation him and I had before we were on here talking to you guys about procrastination and the mindset leads to it.
Oh yeah,
one thing to share it with you.
One thing it reminds me of is, I'm sure a lot of people are aware of the placebo effect and the impact that your mind is so powerful that even if you're taking the sugar capsules or whatever, it can still see a physiological reaction in yourself.
Oh yeah.
And to me, procrastination is the same kind of thing where if you're so focused on the idea of doing the action or the trappings of it, let's say, for example, one of my goals is to be regularly walking independent of that group, right? I just walk. And if all my actions manifest as I buy new running shoes, I buy a Sweatwick shirt, I buy a calendar and I start marking dates on it, and I start talking about in social media.
You buy a new calendar and you buy a new shirt and you bought new shoes.
Right, and I do all of this prep action without actually doing the real action, right? I can get stuck in that cycle of, I'm doing everything to make me feel like I can do something well, but I haven't actually committed the time to show up outside and walk.
And there's no judgment, but I'm going to ask a question. So we're talking to a lot of business owners and other humans, because this is a human issue. This is a human condition. This is something we all struggle with. Even, not just in fitness, but even in my business, or even anytime you endeavor on a new goal, that's it could be intimidating, because it should be. Because it should be.
Totally.
But yeah, if that vision's in there and you feel inspired to do something, please do not stop listening to that. That means you are being purposed and inspired to take action. And this could be literally you thriving at your best. And to not take action is doing yourself a disservice. But we want to make sure you're not questioning your own authority. And so when we talk about this and we're moving forward, recognizing, okay, I'm buying the outfit, I'm doing this, and you know what? This is what happens when you do. This is what I mean by questioning your own authority. If you take action towards a goal and you cancel on yourself, you can pretend and reason out and be like, it's fine, it's cool. Like, I mean, I just got busy, and then like, you know, this happened and that happened. Those are actually valid, but they can work against your mindset.
Totally.
Because in here, you just canceled on yourself again. In here, you just failed yourself again, and it does not increase your energy. You're not thriving. It's questioning your own authority to yourself, whether you realize it or not. And as a coach, I have a problem with that. That actually makes me feel sad right now. But yeah, when I see your progress, like this fire just lights up inside, and I'm so proud of you. So have you ever, even in a business goal, not fitness, done the same thing he just described? Like, I'm going to open this business. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go buy a fancy sign, and then I'm going to get my logo on all my shirts, and then I'm going to like get that calendar.
Right.
So it's going to keep me organized, and then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to build a website, and I'm going to make it look so good. Those are actually dopamine hits for your brain. That is your brain saying, I have a very challenging goal right in front of my face, and it's a little intimidating, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it yet. I'm going to take action, but it looks really messy right now because I haven't analyze those smart skills and made it, because we don't want to work hard and just
not have a result come out of it.
Nor do we want to set ourselves up for failure in 2 weeks because all we did is get the dopamine hits surrounding that idea to make us feel good about ourselves.
Yeah.
There's actually ways to face those fears or the intimidation or that resistance, and there's a way to get past that 2 weeks. In fact, we haven't even got into it yet, but we're going to have to, I'm going to try to stay focused here because we're like, these are like, all
big
these
ideas.
are little seeds that actually are actionable. There's action steps tied to them. They're like, so how about instead of you buying and spending all that money up front for that dopamine hit, how about we let that dopamine hit be you reaching that goal in incremental steps because it's measurable and we're going to be able to know it's working. Or what if you took action for 2 weeks and you didn't see the results that you thought you would, but guess what? What if we can see the data and then use it to say, oh, actually this is responding exactly like we want it to. We were just looking at the wrong information, but now that you got a coach in your corner, I'm like, nope, this is your body saying yes. So we want to keep doing this. Or I can say, based on this data, let's make this small change. So that way when we get 2 weeks down the road and now you're doing it for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You didn't just waste another 2 weeks because we saw the data and the feedback.
And reacted to it.
And we didn't get emotionally hurt by it. Like it wasn't, oh, this is negative and positive. Oh, I only want to look at the positive. No, we actually need both because that's going to be what helps you be successful. It's just numbers. We don't.
Well, and just like what you're saying, right? Just because you see negative feedback, that doesn't mean it's unusable feedback.
It's good feedback.
Right. It's painting a picture that you can use to make yourself accountable more effectively, right? Or make the exercise that you're doing work better. Because I'm sure people out there know not every type of exercise works for everybody. Some people perform the best when they're in a social setting because they see that inspiration, that group energy that kind of comes out of it. Some work better when you have a coach like Stacy here because they hold you to an accountable, structured system that could show you actual actionable results. And then some people prefer where they just have access to home equipment, right? Like they get that motivation out of physically seeing their goal in front of them and being like, I see that way, I got to start doing that way, I need to hold myself accountable to it. So I definitely want to throw out there that every plan that you have for a goal needs to be adaptable to what works best for you, which is kind of what Stacy specializes in, is making it adapt to what you need.
Not only that, so my brain had to literally slow down because he's saying so many things that are like, oh, this made me think of one more thing so not only do you personally respond better to different environments, but to be honest, genetically speaking, and I'm not going to get all into this tangent, that's what I'm here for. So if you have an interest in it, just let's talk. But I partner with a company that uses a DNA kit. So I'm trained enough that I can usually tell how your body's responding without using this DNA kit.
Just from the data you're collecting.
Yes.
Yeah.
But this DNA kit, and when I started using it and coaching with it, showed me even more, and it reiterated like all the stuff that I had already seen and witnessed in people's different bodies. But genetically, did you know that not everybody's body responds the same to fitness or nutrition? There are based on your own. So I always say nutrition, it's not good or bad. It's either useful or useless. So the way you're consuming food, the way you're eating those, it's either nutritious or it's not, but it's not because it's good or bad. It's either useful or it's useless. But when you are keeping up nutritionally, your body will respond with you and not resist you.
Yeah.
So like those numbers I talked about, that data, that feedback, so if you're telling me, Stacy, I'm working out like 4 to 6 times a week and I'm eating clean and I'm eating good, and at least with what I know,
right,
and I'm dealing with my stress and like I'm managing my time better, and I'm all these things, and I'm time blocking, and like I'm working smart, not just hard, and you're saying I'm not getting the results I want, then I can look at that and see, based on your genetic, like your body's response genetically. Did you know, like, there are some people, if you do straight cardio, that their body will not respond and lose weight doing that. It's just their body doesn't prefer it. So if you really want to light that goal, that fitness goal on fire, we're going to want to work with the way your body genetically prefers, if that makes sense.
Totally.
But, so I just said 2 things, and I did not mean to confuse it. So on nutrition, it helps you keep up with your genetics, your lifestyle, and the environment. How much of that do we control? Can you control your genetics? Nope. Can you control the environment?
Very limited.
Not a lot. Some of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can choose.
You could potentially, go to specific places planned out, but you can't necessarily move to Europe on a whim.
And you can unplug. Okay, I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Did you know, like, if you have those little scent makers that you plug into your walls?
Diffusers and stuff.
Most of those are endocrine disruptors, so it disrupts the body's
natural state.
Yes, and so like that could be something that your body would react to. But so you and I could be in the same room, and based on our immune system and our genetics and all that, and what we're doing as a lifestyle, it's going to be whether we can keep up or not. So I always use the word keep up. So that's what we're using nutrition for, is to try to keep up so that our body does not act on those things, or at least not as severely. Like you can remain, like you can be in a room, somebody else gets sick for 2 weeks, and you maybe got it for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, this is a little bit more of a simplified example, but it kind of reminds me of how for older people, they need to do exercises that focus more on flexibility and more focused on how their body is moving, just because, they can't just do straight strength nonstop, especially if they're just getting into it initially.
There are some people that say so. So there is a need for strength training as you get older, because you want to maintain lean body mass.
Right.
Because you'll lose it more quickly.
Let me rephrase. I should have probably clarified in the sense of like, you want to start somebody that's never been working out, who's an elderly person, with like bench presses or something. You might need to get them with like something more manageable for their body.
But range of motion is absolutely something that's, well, for any age really, but you're right. As you get older, you're going to want to increase that range of motion also, because, well, so have you ever, I would even
say, not to interrupt you too much, but I would say even younger. I've seen a lot of people younger than I am who are already starting to complain about back pains, or always talking about knee joint stuff, where I'm like, oh my God, like I'm like 10 to 20 years older than you, and you're already saying you have body problems? Like, what does that mean? Like, oh my God, like, is that what's going to happen to me? Because I feel okay still right now.
Well, so I know that I am older than you. So there are times where I'm like, I hear about how people live and their lifestyle, and I'm like, how are you even still alive? Because, and not in a negative way, there's no judgment. I'm like, I work really hard, not hard, but intentional with how I take care of myself, so that I can feel good each day. But that's why I coach too, because I feel like, I think we're all gifted differently, and I feel like I was kind of created in a way that, like, I always know where my body is at, and so if something doesn't feel right, I'm aware of it, but not everybody is
attuned like that. Yeah.
So I think mine's on like hyperspeed. I just always know, and sometimes I'm like, why do I have to know? Can I just like go through my day and not know this right now? But at the same time, not everybody is aware of that. So,
well, and even to what you're saying right now, it's super short. It reminds me of, I used to have a roommate where their diet was so atrocious that I was impressed that they could function. Like, there was one roommate where I saw him go through 80 granola bars in like 5 days. And I was like, how is your stomach operational right now,
So speaking of that, we do offer a detox.
Right? right. That's what I needed for sure. Or at least water, right?
Yeah. Well, so we were talking about procrastination. So
yes.
What if we used buying that new outfit or all those perks like those? So I used to work at a gym where the owner thought that new equipment and things like that were just shiny objects.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I'll tell you right now, when I coach, so I offer virtual fitness also.
Right.
So you can work out from your home with very minimal, I call them tools.
Right.
So any type of exercise tool that I choose to use, we use it because it maximizes the results you get for your time put in.
Yeah, like the effectiveness. Yeah.
Because we're working smart, right?
Yeah.
Not just hard. So like if I'm doing bicep curls with resistance in my hand and you're doing bicep curls with no resistance in your hand,
yours is going to be more effective.
Obviously, I'm getting a little bit more work in. Plus, guess what? Your mind and your body, your muscles even have memory, by the way, is really smart. And so when you produce a challenge for it, it has to adapt, and it will, and it knows how. But it will never adapt if you don't present the challenge. So like eventually this is going to get so easy.
That'll be like nothing's even happening for you.
You've got to add a resistance band or some dumbbells or something.
Or at least different range of motion, at least, you know?
But what if you reached your goal in 2 weeks or 4 weeks and you're like, I'm getting that outfit I want, not just because it's like something that is useful, but like it would give me that dopamine hit. It's almost like a reward for my effort.
Even on the business side of things, something
Yes.
that I've talked with a lot of clients about is it's really easy to be over intimidated by your big goals, right? Like having that six pack or like being able to fit into that wedding dress or XYZ, but it's hard to imagine what the early on steps are, the small steps are, because sometimes your first step needs to just be showing up.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people, even me, I struggle sometimes with just showing up if I don't have the right accountability or if I don't have the right mindset or if I don't have the right schedule and intentionality around making it happen. So
Yes.
even small steps like you're saying, if you reward, for example, if I need to start running more often and I literally show up to running, I can reward myself with, a small snack or going to a movie or XYZ to be like, hey, you showed up for yourself, here's a reward for yourself.
Yeah.
Rather than just preemptively buying it and feeling like I'm already doing something without taking an action.
Yes. So I'm going to try really hard to stay focused for you guys. But everything that you said, there's so much value there. But I literally, in my mind, I was like, oh, I need to share this with you guys. I need to share this. There's like 5 different things. I'm like, we're going to have to like one thing at a time. So on the reward, I like to ask you guys the question, but ask yourself, because learning yourself and what works for you is extremely critical.
Oh, absolutely.
We're working with our mindset, our body, so that we only have one body for life. It's not like a car. It's not like you just go get a new one.
Right.
I mean, I get that some people like to get extra parts when they hit midway.
Right. There's a transplant list for sure. But you don't want that to happen.
We try to stay out of replacement parts and just, keep your body in longevity, quality of living, being able to do. Because I don't know anybody that wants to sit on the sidelines of their own life. Most people feel really good when they're able to do for themselves and those that depend on them. Right?
Totally. Absolutely. And it makes you feel more empowered to be able to take control of your life, right? Because it's really easy to be so reactive to what's happening in life that you're never proactive.
We want to respond, not react. Yes.
Right.
The question I like to ask is motivation-wise. And you need to know this more than even I do. Well, I need to know this to be effective with you guys. But so when it comes to motivation, if you're waning, do you need to hear positive reinforcement, or do you need somebody to be very direct and more almost like it's like some people respond better to like a negative?
Yeah.
Feedback,
like a push,
and others need more of a
pull.
Supportive. Yes.
Yeah.
So knowing that is important.
It kind of reminds me actually of the 5 languages of appreciation.
Oh yes.
From Patrick Linciani, I think is how you say that. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that name, but some people, like you're saying, respond to words of affirmation. Some prefer acts of service. Mm-hmm. Some prefer the quality time, right? The personal accountability. Some are looking more for physical touch, right? Like they want a high five, they want the hugs, they want the feeling of the energy, stuff like that. And I know for me personally, a big thing that helps me respond well to being committed to goals is the social factor and the working in a group setting. Because to me, if I'm completely isolated, it's easy to go well, what's the point? Nothing's really mattering. It's just me out here doing my own thing.
Sure.
Who cares? Nobody's paying attention. So we're chilling. Whereas when I'm trying to do it in a group setting or even with a trainer, I see really good results. In fact, recently when I used to go do Go Time training before I ended up having to move away from that gym, Caleb Campbell was doing an amazing job holding me accountable to coming in earlier than I normally would, being on top of improving my nutrition that I was intaking into my body, actually trying to talk through exercises that were body weight so that when I had little like downtimes, I could still be actively doing stuff. And him intentionally going out of his way to do that communication was incredibly valuable while I was with that gym. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that Stacy does things just like that with her courses.
Well, so that's what I was going to mention too. Like even when I do personal training, I can do it virtually, but usually when I do one-on-one training, a lot of it's local still, and so I meet them face to face, and so that's a different game, and I'll get into that in a minute. But when we do virtual, some of the things that you said popped up. Like, so the two things we've identified that is hard about virtual is that direct in-your-face accountability. So there's an app. We call it the H45 Club Connect, where we do have that group chat. We check in with each other.
Oh, we can kind of build that community with each other.
It's not just me that's valuable, like their energy, just knowing that you've got other people that are doing that same thing. Even when our goals are unique, we still know that they get it because they're in the same, like
struggle and climb. Yes. Yeah.
So when somebody pops in there and is like, oh, man, I barely got my workout in today. Everybody's like, it's not even about them, but they're still encouraged just to hear you check in because they're like, yeah, I feel you. Like I was like that 2 days ago, or like it's still that community.
Yeah, it reminds.
Plus, we use it for our habits. We have you can see it, so you can go in and they're like, I got my workout, I got my water in today, and and we can set personal goals too, depending on the program that you're in.
Right, and it kind of reminds me of how one thing I really learned over the time with working with business owners is it's really easy to be isolated in your mindset, right? Really think like, I'm the only one facing this challenge. I'm the only one trying to get through this obstacle. I'm the only one with the support. I got to be completely self-reliant, self-dependent. But really, if you think about it, that's not even possible. Like, even from a basic level, you didn't make the clothes on your body, right? You didn't grow the food unless you're a farmer. You didn't grow the food yourself to get the nutrition that you need. You didn't like hand make your shoes. You have some amount of interdependence and cooperation that's needed to function.
Sure.
So realizing that your own goals are like that, right? Your goals aren't just you're the only person ever in the whole world that's ever needed to start running, or you're the only person in the whole world that's ever needed to get a six-pack, but you have some thyroid or weight or genetic component. There are other people out there like that. And when you meet them, like in your app that you just described, and you see that community of there's other people like me, it helps you to realize if other people have done it before me who are like me, who have a similar background, I must be able to do that. You know? That's exactly what your community helps do.
So on the virtual workouts that I do, I pre-record them and they can push play any time of day.
Oh, wow.
So the second thing that we identified extremely quickly as a group together is they had to still schedule it on their calendar.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise, they're like, oh, I'll just get it later. And so two things. I have found those who are hungry for results and hungry for that change and hungry for that progress that they are after willfully because it came
they desire it.
They want it. Yeah. They are the ones that will engage the most. If they're not checking in on the app, they're often feeling isolated and they end up hit these walls and then they don't tell us about it. And those are the ones who struggle the most. But the person who's the most active in the group chat that's checking off, I did this today, who is looking at what information can I get? I want that feedback. I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm going to use every bit of that data. Those are the ones that you see most successful every single time I've coached, whether it's a fitness challenge, whether it's just a personal goal over a long period of time, short-term, long-term goals. Those who are engaged and hungry for that feedback, those are the ones who win and do the best.
Well, it reminds me a lot of something we said before we started the recording is you have to have the belief that you can change. And when you do actions that support that belief, just like you're saying, you're actively engaging with the community, you're reaching your own checklist, you're seeing your mini goals succeed. It kind of reinforces even subconsciously your belief in yourself meeting that ultimate end goal, you know?
There's two clients that stand out. There's one who she literally puts her workout on her calendar each day for 2 different time frames.
Oh.
But she's like, if I miss that for whatever reason, then I have to do it at this time. But this is what I prefer. And the reason I like this is because if there's never a consequence, then it gets really easy to cancel on yourself. We already talked about this. We're not going to cancel on ourselves because that does affect our mindset more than we think it does. And so I love this because she's saying, if I miss this, even though I don't want to do it at this time, I'm going to. In fact, I've scheduled it already as my backup plan. and I'm going to make myself do it. You tell me you're going to drink half your body weight in ounces of water and you don't get it, and like using something like this is very helpful because it's a visual. Like, okay, did I fill this up at 9, at 12 p.m., at 3 p.m., at 6 p.m.? Because if you say that and you get to the end of your day and you're about ready to go to sleep and you told me, your coach, and you told yourself, I'm going to do this, and you didn't, well, then you better go fill this up until you've done all those markers, and you're like, how am I going to sleep? I'm going to end up going to the bathroom all night long. Yeah, you probably will, but how are you going to do that again to yourself? Like,
right. It's kind of helps.
Not.
It kind of helps to remind your body on a body level, like, hey, if I want to avoid this consequence of last minute work, be intentional.
You want to be up going to the bathroom all night? Well, more power to you. But if you actually make yourself have that consequence, your brain is going to find a way to make sure that does not happen again because it was uncomfortable, and you know darn well you can do something about it, and so you will.
And the way I like to think of it is, do you prefer the short-term discomfort of not canceling on yourself, or do you want to handle the long-term permanent consequence of your body health deteriorating for years? You know what I mean? Like it's very much about, hey, would you rather be intentional now, or would you rather pay up front for it down the line?
It's such a slippery slope too, because that degradation over time, we don't really see it because it's so slight. But you know what I also do to encourage people? I always try to tell them, I was like, look, you think that you've only, I'm 2 weeks in and I've only lost 2 pounds, but it was like, man, it took so much effort, because anytime you start something new, it's going to be challenging at first. You should expect it to. It's always tough until it's not. But if you keep going, it starts to become your identity, because you start to make it a lifestyle, and you start to do it, and you start to find, your brain finds these ways to make it work, and you start working smart, not just hard, and you start to find what works for you. You create that consistency.
And just like you're saying, it's literally you're training your brain, because if you've been already in the mindset of canceling on yourself for years or months or however long it's been, your brain is gonna resist. It's not used to these actions. It's not used to the self-accountability. What you're feeling is 100% normal. It's your brain going, I've never done this before. I've never held myself accountable like this, and I am, and this is new and uncomfortable. But that uncomfortability is what we're looking for. I think, like we were kind of mentioning again, outside of this.
You want it.
Yeah, you want to want it.
You need challenge, and you want to be uncomfortable, because that's when you adapt.
Exactly, because I think the biggest risk factor that a lot of people in general have is they seek comfort and then they get stuck in it, right? Even to their own degradation, like you're saying. You won't obviously see it until it's too late.
So there's like I won't veer off on this because I'm not a neuroscientist, so it'd be outside my scope to speak on it, but there are neuroscientists that are literally studying right now that when you move forward into adversity or challenge or what feels tough, maybe because you currently don't know how that looks, or you haven't built the wherewithal to be like, well, I've never done this before, what do I do? If you can learn and you can push forward, even if it's just one baby step, or that 1% better each day, just don't let it back you down. You cannot summon up reasons and fears and all these things and dopamine hits to avoid for procrastination. When if you want to build some grit and you want to get stronger in your own mindset to reach any goal, not just fitness, not just business, it will flow throughout your entire life. You've got to train your brain to move forward into that resistance, because on the other side of it, you start to build some expertise about yourself, and you start to get stronger. Those habits start to become your identity, and you're finally doing it, and you will thrive there.
Well, and I was going to say, just like what you're saying, you'll notice a really serious, tangible quality of life, because once you start achieving basic things like the fitness goal, even if it's just the beginning stuff, you'll start believing that you can achieve other types of goals. Like from a business component, if you have the accountability to show up every day, once a day to do, let's say, the walking, right? That means you can show up at the same time for your clients, right? You can show up at those meetings, even if it feels uncomfortable. I know something that a lot of my clients struggle with is public speaking. And I, even to this day, can be uncomfortable when I'm doing public speaking. But I kind of use that as energy, right? That kind of like nervous energy that gets you moving, and where once you start getting in the flow of the activity that you're doing, it then becomes kind of, it distills out, it smooths out, now it feels more like positive rather than anxious,
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be aware of those things and step forward into it also.
Yeah.
And so like for me, I grew up very shy. There are people that have known me since childhood till now, and they're like, it is really hard to reconcile like who I knew you were to who you are today. But like, I I still get nervous. When I was first opening my business, I had some mentors or coaches or even peers trying to challenge me. One of the very first things they asked me to do that was extremely uncomfortable for me, they wanted me to do a full workout live on social media.
Oh, well, like streaming it. Wow.
Not pre-recording it, editing it, making sure it's okay, making sure I didn't mess up
Right.
while everybody's staring at me working out. Like, I was like, whew, that's a lot of pressure.
Oh, I can only imagine.
But I really wanted to do this, and I knew I was called to do it. And so I was like, I'm not going to back down. That is not an option. So I did it anyways. And then I was like, so this is what helped me in like public speaking or going live is like, I had to just be like, no, I have a passion to coach. But why? Because I love helping others. Because I love seeing your progress. Because I know that when you get your power back, which is my tagline right there, that you're going to thrive at your best. And so like, I'm like, okay, I had to make it not about me. And I was like, I have coached before. I'm just going to pretend like I am literally talking to you and that you're doing this with me and that how can I add value? So I would still preach form, even though I was just working out in front of people. I was like, no, I'm just going to make it about you. I'm just going to make it about serving others. And so that took the focus off of me to where I could just use my passion to help others. And that's what helped me do it better.
Well, and I'll say to just kind of like what you're saying, I've always felt like the biggest part of doing something new or something uncomfortable like that isn't actually normally the action that you're literally doing. It's the anticipation of that action, right? It's the anxiety right before you execute on the action.
This goes well. I don't know what I'm getting into.
And I'll say it like this. Most people that I meet day to day, they're not going to call you out for minor mistakes. Like, they're not going to be like, I noticed that she didn't tuck in her shirt. And
imperfect action.
Yeah, imperfect action is action.
Wait, you're human?
Right.
Wait a minute. So this isn't so sterile? Like, wait, you make mistakes too? Oh my gosh, I can totally relate to you now. Like,
totally.
Well, that was kind of goofy. Well, she rolled with, we're just human.
And think of it like this. Life isn't about perfect results. Life's about keeping it consistently going, moving, progressing, right? And if you get stuck in that analysis paralysis of I need the initial start to be the most perfect, picturesque, explicit, intentionally panned thing with every single micro detail accounted for, you're never even going to get to the first step of doing anything.
And I'm glad he segued back to that, because when you were speaking earlier about, it's not just about fitness goals. No matter, remember when I ask you your top 3 goals, I want to know all of them. So if you have a career goal, so I used to work in sales and customer service for like over 2 decades. I've trained it and I've worked in it. And so I've networked with other peers, and this is what would happen. So like, I don't know if you can relate to this or not. Some of you will. Like, say you're working for a company and you have some major project coming in. You have these really high-end goals.
Yeah.
So the company can be successful. So that you metrics that you have to meet. And you're like, okay, how do I take action towards that? Am I going to let it intimidate me, or am I going to move forward in it? But all of it is, so there's something you mentioned, and now I'm
blanking on it now that you're on camera.
But I don't want to not. It was very rich in value. Okay, so what we saw is those who were hungry, that they could, number one, they could see the vision with clarity. So not only was the goal specific, they could envision it because it was outlined extremely well. There was very good clarity around it.
And they could believe that it's possible for them.
Yes. And it was measurable, it was achievable, it was reasonable, it was relevant, it was time-bound.
Yes.
So this is what happened. Those who were successful at reaching it embraced all of that. And if there was any friction up front, they voiced it so that it could be addressed collaboratively.
Right.
Not just in isolation. Like you said the word isolation. And those who were unsuccessful were even professionals who were good at what they do, but for whatever reason, when they hit the friction or roadblock, they backed away and they're like, I can figure this out. And they started beating themselves up. And then they had all this internal negative self-talk and doubt. And then when what their strategy to address it didn't work, still isolated alone, they kept backing further away. And then at this point, they let it go so long that they started to almost self-sabotage their own efforts, because now they had shame or guilt or like this negative mindset on how to even fix it now, because now they were so far in, they were almost too, embarrassed to ask for help or say, hey, I was struggling 5 weeks ago, but I didn't say anything. You know what? Break that. If you really want success, you've got to say, I need help, and you need to do it right away. But when you do fail, it's like what you said.
Yeah.
You get back up, and you need to be more. So it's not about what you do once in a while. It's about what you do most often. We're all going to have good days and bad days, but I guarantee you, if you learn to come back sooner and ask for help sooner, you're going to be more successful. And that's going to raise your own confidence inside. It's going to raise that grit. It's going to raise your stress threshold because you're training your mind and your body to get stronger. Yes.
Absolutely.
Because we're so smart that way.
Well, and I think that smartness is kind of what leads to that procrastination trap, right? Like everybody here, you have the intelligence and the faculties and the logic to logic the excuses that you need to say to make yourself feel better, right?
We're really good at that. There's no end to reasoning.
Oh no!
I mean,
and hey, to yourself, the reasoning is always going to be justified, right? Hey, I have
kids.
Who's good
at reasoning?
Oh, I'm guilty of it myself. Like a big thing I still struggle with, right, is even podcasting. One of the things I used to say before I was talking with Stacy and some other people is the idea of podcasting. Like, hey, I'm familiar with it. I like the idea. I was listening to podcasts. I was looking into specific things. But until I made action, like starting to edit somebody else's podcast, asking to be invited as a guest for Stacy's right here. I've even recently reached out to a local Wichita person who has expressed potential interest in co-hosting. Until I started making real steps, there wasn't any real progress that was happening around it.
Thank you for saying this.
That's what it takes.
That's actually what I preach often, because it's the style of coaching that I have. If you are taking action, I can add momentum. But if you're at a complete dead stop, what do you want me to do?
Well, it's just like the law of motion, right?
But guess what? You are capable and smart.
Mm-hmm.
I have expertise, but you have an insight to you that when we collaborate together, if you are taking action, that action, you know this, and I know you're going to speak to it next. I just know it. But when we start moving forward and you take action, guess what? We get feedback and data, and that information is going to tell you how to do something you've never done before, because now it's in front of your face and you're going to figure it out because you're going to seek resources.
Right, because you're learning.
Others who are doing it.
Yeah.
You're learning. And why would you? There's nothing wrong with learning.
Absolutely.
We all start somewhere.
One of the people I've actually worked with, he actually specializes in helping authors freshly write books that have never done it.
Right.
And something he's talked about a lot to me and to others is every author, even the most world famous one, always started with their first book where they had no name, they had no expertise, they had nothing to say, they just went for it.
Yes.
Even if it was going to be a complete failure, they just decided to start. Because really, if you never start, you're never going to get anywhere.
What are you going to edit? What are you going to change? What are you going to develop?
If you never write that first sentence, you're never going to write that first paragraph, you're never going to write that first page, right? Mm-hmm. So even if your first sentence is full of grammar mistakes, doesn't make any sense, and doesn't actually lead anywhere, you still literally created something. And that's something that I think is hugely undervalued, because procrastination, right, is going to tell you, well, you thought about writing something, or you bought that pencil that will be able to eventually write something, or you got the fanciest paper that has this margin and these notes on the side and it says all the stuff about how to start writing. But if you never do that actual literal writing, you're just reasoning your way into an excuse and into a dopamine hit, just like you're saying, instead of actually holding yourself accountable to making that real progress.
And there are professionals that I've heard say they believe that procrastination is actually kind of like a trauma response. It is a response from your brain, but it doesn't set you up for success. But it is feedback. And so instead of judging it or beating yourself up for it, we need to get you some
just
resources.
Voice it.
Yes,
like you're saying, voice it.
Well, so when you say it out loud to somebody you trust, like a coach, because I'm not a gossiper, it's between you and I, it diffuses its power over you just by voicing it. Did you know that? And then, plus, now you've got some collaboration and some expertise, not judgment. You have another person saying, I see you doing this actually really well. So what I hear and what I see is, and based on my expertise, if we just change this right here, I bet you this will help unlock that. You're just going to be able to keep stepping forward. Let's try it, get that feedback again, and then we're going to repeat it right away. and we're going to keep working this out. We're going to find out what works.
Well, and something you just said that really sparked a thought in me is when you're thinking of something to just yourself, it's super loud to yourself until you voice it, right?
Does it ever feel like it's just tapping you on the shoulder?
Right.
Like, I know, I've heard
when
this.
you have these thoughts in your head, they can be
Yes.
all encompassing, crazy, huge, wild,
And you can journal
omnipresent.
it,
Yeah, but once you actually speak it out into reality, you
Yes.
actually write it down, you actually explain it to somebody else, you can kind of start depowering that false sense of doubt, that false sense of inability to do something, that false sense of not believing in your possibility to change.
And
You
then
know?
tell me, have you ever done that and then literally right after you said it, you could already visualize or see or like resonate with like, oh my, saying it out, the solution?
Yeah,
It's like you already know the solution even yourself internally, but he was just saying it out loud. You're like, oh.
help make it click.
Yes.
It actually reminds me
Yes.
more from a business side, right? Was one of the things I was having a challenge with was figuring out somebody that could actually come to watch this place when I'm offsite, right? Because some of the stuff that I do is fractional support for businesses that need help with technology. And one of the challenges I had was just thinking, how am I ever going to find somebody to watch the front? Because, you know, my other business partner is already doing all this. And, like, I can't even think of a family member who can come through because they're unreliable and XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. But then when I actually started saying it out loud and actually talking to a business partner about it, they just made the easy assessment of, like, well, we could always just, like, find an intern.
Right.
Or we could always just,
Yes.
like, try somebody out.
Yes.
Or we could just ask one of the members that are already here if they're willing to help. And it was literally just as easy as bringing it up
Yes.
to identify a potential solution.
Yeah. When
Yeah.
we collaborate together, because we all have unique skill sets, backgrounds, when we start networking together with, especially, that's why I love networking with business professionals in general. Number one, I support small business, especially local business, because those are my people. Those who think and are solving problems, they are always a wealth of
Impacting
information.
their environment.
All you have to do, they don't compete. Their brains are such that like, oh, I just heard your problem, and their brain already thinks of the solution. They start speaking, and you start speaking, and then whatever idea you had, like takes fruition and momentum forward, and it's just beautiful. It's a strength, and so
totally.
don't hustle alone. Don't fight alone. Don't keep guessing. Don't keep going in circles. Just raise that hand and be like, I'm willing to take action. I'm willing to get help.
Well, I always feel like a lot of people think the world is more hostile than it is, right? Like, where if you ever voice anything, you're going to get always negative feedback. And honestly, stuff like the internet and social media doesn't help, right? Because in online spaces like that, sometimes you'll interact with communities who are incessantly negative, and that's their entire motive.
You know what I found, though? If you get that response, you've likely, not always, said something to a wrong person, and they likely don't have an answer for you, so it sometimes presents itself as frustration.
Oh yeah.
So what you need to say is, it's not even about you. Like, don't take it negatively. Instead, realize I asked the wrong person, or I asked the wrong question. So like.
Well, in another way, I would think
the right environment, the right tribe, the right group.
Right tribe, I think, is instrumental. But I was going to say one thing I think about when I hear negative feedback from people, especially if they have no understanding of me personally, is you're probably reflecting something that they're personally struggling with, and it's easier for them to just spew their own internal negativity outwards rather than address what's actually going on. Right?
Our minds are interesting. But human behavior, but there's only so many reasons why we do things. So like, I try really hard not to get offended and just realize, look, we are all on a journey. We're all at different steps. And so like, you know, sometimes you catch somebody on the wrong day, but sometimes they're struggling just as much as you're struggling. But if we could just come together and realize that, then like we can be a better support.
I always say one of the biggest things that people undervalue is the ability to understand somebody else and the ability to also be understood.
Yes.
Huge component of something I always recommend when you're having a conversation that's really engaging with somebody is make sure you're repeating back what they say, because it not only signifies that you understand what they're saying, but it also says, I hear you.
So do you know, in that group chat, one of the first things I do when somebody new comes on board, a new member, is there's because I also do one-on-one like live for like goal coaching.
Right.
And so I have the fewest amount of hours in that. I have my bachelor's in exercise science, and so that's my passion. But I also realize like mindset's a piece of that. So when we tackle goals, then I started to use these tools, and I have different tools, and they all have different amounts associated with, like, if we use them.
Oh yeah, like different price
assessment
points.
or the Clifton Strengths.
Yep.
Or like there's some free ones I use, but I shared it, and it's optional whether they do it or not. Everybody's done it that I've shared it with though. Because I wanted to be more effective in how I communicate with them, and then I wanted them to be able to understand me better, because I'm unique too. My brain is it loves information. And I know this is a shocker, but did you know not everybody loves information?
Right? Some people want it to be as simplistic as possible.
But I'm like, no, please give me the data, and everybody else is like, can you just show me the way? Like literally just like right in front of me. Can you just like do that so I can visualize it? And like I don't want any of I don't want the info. I need the visual. But we're all different that way. So learning yourself and what works obviously matters, and that way we're more effective with each other, which is my top objective. My objective is to get you results. So we need to be effective with your time, and we need to maximize the results that you get for your effort put in by doing the right things. It's not always about doing more. It's about doing the few right things that make the biggest results and impact for you, and then getting that data and feedback.
Absolutely.
And putting it on repeat right away, and learning and getting better and being hungry and building mindset and muscles.
Well, and just like you're saying, like you were mentioning earlier, I think that's why it's so important to do the top 3 objectives, not just on fitness, but around your personal life, right? Because that impacts your ability to be fit. And really, like you're saying about the mindset, it's so instrumental in ensuring that you're accounting for all the potential variables that could be impacting you, but not getting lost in it.
Yes.
You know, that's why she's saying you got to narrow it down to the main 3, or you got to narrow it down to which exercises are giving you the most results. Because it's easy to go, here's 100 million different options that all have the possibility of doing results. But if you don't actually test the first 3, you're never going to get anywhere, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is also the style of coaching I prefer. And is that we want to start eliminating all the guessing. Because what is the hardest is when I don't like it when I see people taking action and they're so close and there's just a few things they need to tweak. And I have seen this pay off. But so my expertise is exercise, nutrition, and mindset. But in growing a business, like I had to learn how do we build this website? Right. I never built a website. I had to learn how to do audio visual equipment. She had to learn how to edit this. So as a business owner, you end up learning things, but it's a good thing, even if I don't plan to do that task on my own, because there's another business professional that's really good at what they do. I want them to use their expertise to help me, because I don't want to have to do everything on my own.
Well, and really, you can't be an expert in every single thing, because can you imagine the amount of stress and learning and XYZ you'd have to handle to be able to be perfect all the time, everywhere, in every facet of your life? Like, that sounds exhausting.
I will say, learning a base of information, I can better know who will help me.
Oh, absolutely.
And be able to collaborate better with them, because there's at least an intelligent level of understanding.
Yes.
Sure.
But I guess what I should refer to is more that expertise level, right? Like, you don't necessarily want to be an expert website designer or an expert podcast editor.
Just like when we were both talking about podcasts, and he was like, let's do this. And so like, he's using his expertise and I got mine, and then it's just a very easy conversation, because it's a good mix of skill set.
Well, and I think both of us have a really good commitment as a core value to action now, right?
Yes.
Like, one of the things I try to tell people is, if you want to do something, do it right now. Like, for example, when I was talking with Stacy about this, I made the commitment right away to send a message. Or I made the commitment to ask, let's put it on an Outlook invite so we can actually account for it. Even today, before she showed up, I made sure to text and say, hey, are we good to go? Because I'm feeling it. Like, let's make this work. And she came in here prepared and ready to talk.
Yes, of course. Well, it's because if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to follow through and do it.
Absolutely.
But I always ask this question. So whether it's a business goal or fitness goal, whatever it is, doesn't matter. So we always ask this question. On a scale of like 1 to 10, how comfortable are you, number 1, at getting uncomfortable and taking action? Where are you at today? If you were honest, 10 being, I'm doing this, there's nothing that's going to stop me, and 1 being, is not going to happen.
I'm going to say personally for myself, it's a 6, because I do excel at taking uncomfortable actions in areas that I'm more familiar with. Yeah. So more around business things, more around marketing things, but with certain areas that I've already not shown that willingness to be uncomfortable around it, I struggle, right? One easy example to point to is that walking group, right? I don't function super well at confrontation all the time.
Gotcha.
Especially when it's like more casual acquaintances rather than like a close-knit group, right? Yeah. So it's easy for me to retreat into comfort, which is let's reschedule, right? Or let's wait till the weather improves, or here's some potential suggestions. Something I've been trying to challenge myself to do, which I've asked my roommate to kind of hold me accountable a little bit to this, is to just show up to a place regardless of whether or not the group shows up, and just let them know that I went there regardless, because I think that might prompt them into saying, well, he's literally showing up. We're the ones kicking our feet around, kicking the can down the road. We should show up. I think that'll help make it more effective.
So we have to appreciate I've been vulnerable with you guys, but so was he. He just showed you, he actually just gave his own solution. So he knows himself well enough to say, hey, this is where I struggle, which means it's going to be a pitfall. And did you know, so this is an episode where we're talking a lot about mindset. Yeah. Did you know what comes into play? It's a big component of whether you're successful or not is how you manage your day-to-day, because your day-to-day can sometimes compete the most with your top goals. Because think of that, you set a new goal, but you were already doing all this, and now you're trying to add to it. Right. So that day-to-day should be expected, and if we don't know your top three, then how are we going to plan for it? So,
and you encounter the exact same problems in business. Like, I know a lot of business owners that feel like they can never work on their business just because they feel like they have to always work in their business, putting out those fires.
And that's just come full circle, because you mentioned Carl earlier. So he's, creating his business and he's growing, and that puts a time constraint on him, but yet he's still being intentional because he knows the wisdom behind it is, I also have to take care of my personal goals and my health so that I am able to show up 100% for my business, for my clients, for multiple goals. Because I don't just have one goal, I have several. Yeah. And so how do I still honor all of them and what I can do?
I like to think of it as you can't honor others if you can't even honor yourself.
Yeah, it needs to, it's really a character trait. So like, these goals we're talking about and all this strategy, it carries over into everything.
Oh yeah, like the same kind of reasoning we have for what we were talking about for business and fitness can apply to studying, can apply to learning, can apply to even entertainment and just personal satisfaction, right? Like some people are afraid to try a new hobby that looks cool just because it's something they've never experienced before. Sure. Or some people feel guilty about wanting to play a game that they like just because they don't feel like it's socially acceptable or something. And really like voicing it, acknowledging that that's your problem and challenge that you're facing, and then like you said, trying to find a community that you can talk about that with will help clear away those kind of self-perceived chains around doing action.
So ultimately it comes down to you versus you. So it's absolutely valuable to do this internal work on self-growth for yourself, for a goal in general. But we've talked a lot about working smart, and I don't want to forget this. I know it may not sound as popular, but it is extremely important to build that grit and to go the distance. So we also have to work hard. Yeah. And we don't have to be busy. We don't have to do so much more that we're exhausted and we end up tanking our efforts. It's about doing the right thing. So don't let that intimidate you. Don't let the word tough or hard intimidate you, because you're tough too. You have so much more in you than you might know. So when I have an acronym for working hard, not just smart. Yeah. So working hard, you got to hustle. You got to be willing to put the work in. You've got to be willing to prioritize it and make it happen. You got to hustle. You have to have that hustle spirit in you. You have to be accountable. You have to be willing to not be isolated and be like, you got to at least tell one other person, so there's some accountability, which might be uncomfortable. And if it is uncomfortable, then you need to do it for sure.
Right. So that uncomfort is a sign that you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Push into it. And you must be relentless. Mm-hmm. You're valuable. Your goal is valuable. You have one life. It is worth living, and when you get to the end of it, I don't want you looking back with regrets like, man, I just should have took that risk and just did it. Guys, you have one life. Once you've discerned, once you've added the facts, once you've got some strategy, you've got to start gradually taking action, because it'll present itself with the feedback so that you can do the right next step. Totally. And you need to be determined within your own will to have a little bit of fire to say, I'm willing to be determined and to go the distance. And it's going to last longer than 2 weeks. And you need it too. I need it too, because we're not going to keep going in circles and questioning your own authority. We're going to honor your goals. We're going to honor that vision. We're going to honor that fire inside that even made you want to start to begin with.
Kind of reminds me of one of my favorite quotes, which I'm probably going to butcher right now, but about insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, right? And to me,
practice makes perfect. Really? Well, how are you practicing in error and you're just reinforcing the error?
Right.
Or are you going to keep practicing and learning and applying the feedback and then taking action again?
Well, the way I like to think about it is if your normal habits, right, before you start making changes, self-doubt, isolation, stuck in your head, analysis paralysis, constantly thinking through all the negative pitfalls of everything, you'll never expect to have a positive outcome.
Wait, so there's never a perfect time with perfect environment, with perfect dynamics, with perfect all these things?
I mean, to me, it makes me think of perfection is one of the most dangerous words I like to even hear from people. Because to me, when I think of a perfect, I think of you want to reach this unattainable, mythical 100% completion of anything. Like, really, life isn't even about perfection. It's about progress and consistency, yes. Right? You're not going to have a perfect life until you start progressing, until you start feeling it's perfect despite any imperfections.
I will tell you, whether we think so or not at the time, the journey, that struggle that you push into, that journey when you get to the end of it and you've reached that mountaintop victory, you're going to look back and realize that journey was actually the self-growth, it's so rich and so valuable that it is going to actually be part of the reward. The journey and the tough piece inside that you travel or traverse to get to that mountaintop victory, there's such rich value there. Where you put your energy and heart into, that's where your treasure is. So don't resist the journey.
Right.
Embrace it, move forward into it. And
the journey is the best part, because even if you hit that end goal, it just means you got a new journey ahead of you, right? You don't want to sit on that mountaintop forever. You want to reach the new mountain.
There was a client that I talked to, I bring this up sometimes when I'm coaching, that they reached their mountaintop victory goal. It took them a few years. It was a big, tough goal, and they reached it. And then once they got there, they didn't know what to do. They're like, well, now what? But if you are addressing mindset and you are leveling up and you're getting better as you're reaching that goal, you will know exactly what to do because you're going to thrive there because you have grown along with it while reaching that goal. And that is extremely important also. Yeah,
it reminds me of one of the personal mountaintop challenges I faced, not around fitness, but around myself, was I had planned career-wise up to graduating college originally, where I was doing a lot of work in high school, taking all these AP classes, started a little mini fundraiser and charity practice, got involved in newspapers, XYZ, and all this stuff, all the way up to getting into college and excelling in there. But once I graduated, I realized that's as far as I had planned. I didn't have a next step outside of it.
What do I do now?
But luckily, like she's saying, I managed to lean back on what I had already been doing and what I had already been engaged in to start thinking of what would be a new goal to start shooting towards. And it happened to be helping support my family in this space and providing some assistance around those. But if I hadn't been so focused on making sure that the journey itself was impactful and effective, not being tunnel vision on just the end goal, I wouldn't have even had that thought.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what I like about what you said too is, because I met you at a business networking event, which absolutely feeds into what you guys got doing here, what you're doing here. But anytime we're willing to have the courage to learn and step forward into a goal, it puts you in the arena with other people
who are doing the same thing.
So have you ever felt isolated? You're like, I know I need the right tribe, but I can't seem to find them. I guarantee you, and I don't mean this to sound harsh because I'm speaking from my own self-experience, because there was a time where I felt isolated. Like every place I went to, like people would talk about the weather and I got extremely bored and I was like, my brain needs more. And so when I go to WEBA business networking events, so those are my people because that's just my tribe of people. But it took me being willing to take action and
showing up.
I was like, okay, I either jump and try to create my own business because I've always wanted to, or I don't. And if I would have chosen not to because it looked too scary or intimidating, then it wouldn't have got me into the arena with other business owners that have provided such rich friendships and value in what they collaborate and share with their skill sets. And that's happening with you. So now that's how I met you.
Yeah.
And that's how, now you're talking about your business goals in the future.
Right.
And so you took this skill, you did the work, you got your college degree, and same thing with me. I got my bachelor's in exercise science, not even knowing exactly what I'd use it for.
You did it, right.
I was going to end up going further and do like physical therapy, but I ended up
like a
stopping
doctor's kind of
yes,
thing.
and then and so instead I'm like, I thought fitness, exercise, nutrition, mindset, I thought that was just my own personal hobby because that was what fueled me. And then I realized, wait a minute, professionally, I've always loved helping people.
Yeah.
I've always been in this arena to help people no matter what business I worked in. I was like, I'm just going to combine this. And then not only that, like right now, I've considered offering like corporate wellness programs. And I'm like, honestly, it would be a perfect thing for my skill set because I love being around other business owners and helping people. I have a passion for exercise, nutrition, mindset, and fitness.
Yeah.
We know that business professionals, there's often times where you're sitting for hours staring at a screen and like, I need to move to be effective.
Well, and especially in the corporate environment, like think of like Coke, right? Where they have huge facilities, hundreds of people that they're working with, many different office locations.
There's a lot of small businesses. I don't know if you ever... Well, you have worked for...
I worked with a few of them.
We have something in common where we both worked for small businesses that are growing, and it's such a unique opportunity because your skill set, like you're probably going to multitask more than you would at a big company. At a big company, there's a person for every position. For a small
and redundancies for every position.
They need you to pitch in. You need to help each other out. Hey, I'll cover you if you can cover this. And furthermore, like I need to know your role just enough till I can back you up and cover you, on that whatever. So like you're used and you're needed more, which means that workload could be tighter and
more challenging.
Successful, right?
Yeah.
There's different dynamics that come into play, and the same thing for somebody who's a business owner. You're sitting here trying to do it all, and you're like, "How on earth am I going to get my workout in?" I'll tell you right now, it's not about. Okay, say you missed a workout. You know what I usually tell people to do? Pick 3 of your favorite exercises and do them, even if it's right before bed. It shouldn't keep you up too much. I know everybody responds.
Well, and if anything, you'll work yourself out into being able to sleep easier if you've expended some physical energy ahead of time.
So what I say is, we need to get away from that all or nothing thinking. It's not all or nothing. It's how do I have a rhythm that works for me in my schedule? How do I do the right things so I'm not doing more? I'm doing what Coach Stacy says is the critical 3 things, not 5 to 7 things. And how do I not go buy the fancy outfit and break the bank just because I have a new goal? I'm just going to start today. Taking action.
And I want to really highlight that all or nothing thinking because I think that's epidemic of a wide variety of issues that people face right now. Even with business owners who are like, hey, I'm wearing every single hat. I don't know how I could ever hire an executive assistant to help me. Or, hey, I'm involved in making sure all the finances run for my corporation and I've never once considered how I can delegate out to the team. It's easy to get stuck in that either it has to be 100% right or 0% right? And like we've hopefully been reiterating throughout this entire podcast, imperfect action is so much more valuable than you realize. Even 10% correct is more than 0% of nothing happening.
You start to literally come into your solutions when you're doing that action.
Yeah, and you'll see that it goes fast.
You can't even see this because it's too far out, and you haven't even taken action to give you any feedback to apply.
Yeah, I like to think of it as the first step is harder than the entire journey sometimes.
Do you remember earlier in the conversation we were talking about, I didn't complete the thought, I don't think I mentioned it, but like when you were saying like, okay, if we were to stay stagnant and we didn't even take action at all, everybody's like, oh, I started this goal and I'm right here. And I'm like, actually, you think you've only made this much progress, but I will venture to say, and we can never go back to like what ifs and things like that.
Right.
But think about it this way. People think that things are going to stay the same if they take no action. That is not how life works.
No.
There's this thing called entropy, which means everything leads to chaos. We don't have to go that far. It's not... But
not trying to make a philosophical argument.
But think, especially with your health though, like when you're here doing nothing, you're not staying here. Most of the time, stressors continue to kind of slowly degrade health because you're not keeping up yet because we're not doing the right actions that will help you keep up. So really when you start making progress, it's more like this, and you're doing more work than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah.
You have to have the courage to believe that, yes, I know, because I've consulted with Stacy and she knows what she's doing. I know myself. We're working together. And so now that we're taking action, those results and that feedback's going to be there. And I'm actually making a bigger progress forward then I might even be able to realize.
And one thing I like to point out, because this is something that's helped me hold accountable to fitness when I struggle with it, is it's not always a visual thing that you see, right? Sometimes it's a feeling. Sometimes just noticing, like for myself, right? I notice I don't consistently have back pain. I notice that I don't have joint issues, despite younger people frequently that I interact with talking about those things. Or I notice that I have more energy than people that I notice who are never doing any kind of progress. You might see that it's a difference of just your physical comfort is better than what you see around you. Even though you can't, even though I don't see like some six pack here, I don't see like crazy huge bicep swirls or traps or whatever.
He is not currently working out with me though.
Right, yeah, let me be clear. First, just doing like walks mostly at the moment. But I just really want to reiterate that, right? Like you're not always going to see the progress from just a visual mindset or viewpoint. You're going to see and feel the progress more internally.
And I always encourage you too to identify those things, because that is feedback, very, very motivating feedback that what you're doing is working. And even though we set this original like a goal, there are so many other goals you reach along the way that you didn't even realize were something you wanted until you start to feel better. And you're like, oh, this feels nice to be able to bend over and have my back not hurt. Or, you know what? I was winded when I first went out with it. But now, like, I walk the whole thing and I'm like, honestly, could go further. Like, that is a good feeling.
And like she's saying, be mindful of those changes, because those are easy to just discount because it feels so gradual. It's hard to initially pick it up.
Paying attention. It is keeping score up here, because your brain wants to keep doing what works. But honestly, it can handle negative feedback because that gives it also the information to know how to fix it, because we're smarter than we think and give ourselves credit for.
And like she's saying, all feedback is actionable, positive or negative. Every kind of feedback you get is telling you something you can use to be better.
So I hope this information was very valuable and helps you learn to take action forward, or gives you the courage or just momentum and push. The H45 Velocity Coaching, to be honest with you, was actually inspired by a physics principle. So H45, the max height of a projectile motion, it's a 45-degree angle. It's the most balanced of trajectory forward. So out of all the other angles, it's the one that just like goes beautifully long and like forward. I think of that as our life going forward. Like we want a balanced trajectory forward. That's just amazing. And then the velocity, to me, like velocity is like, can you think of like when you've turned a corner, like when you go faster, like you can feel that momentum and pull. Well, you actually speed up when direction changes. And so like to me, a good coach comes along and says, I am going to speed up that directional change. You've got a goal that you have set. Now, how do we speed up how quickly you get there?
How do you optimize?
Yes, because we're all busy. Day-to-day's coming in. We're prepared for it.
I would say like this, though. Business is just another procrastination tool. You can always, if you're passionate enough about it, find a way.
Yes.
Really.
Yep. Once you see it and believe it, you can learn and you can collect that data and feedback and you can do it.
And I guess just the highlights, it sounds like we're closing.
You need to take action. Was that too direct?
I don't know if you can even see this. There'll probably be a transition on the podcast itself. But
there are fitness challenges. In fact, I prefer anybody that does come in and start fitness with me to start at a challenge. Why? It's a time set goal. It has those SMART goals attached. It's actionable. It's measurable. It lets me teach you how to know you have your body working with you. And it gives you that one-on-one attention from me right up front. And I guarantee you, when you stay after you've completed that challenge, because most people do, because you start seeing results and you're like, yes, it's finally working. Then you and I both are kind of more on that same page. And we're like, okay, now I know what to look for. I'm not going to get discouraged when the weight on the scale has stayed stationary, because Coach Stacy's taught me that if this is happening with my muscle and this is happening with my fat, that I actually have my body working for me. I know strategically what to do, and then if I hit a plateau, she's there to help me get past it. So that right away, because we're raising our hand, because we're not staying stuck or isolated, guessing, so we can keep moving forward.
Well,
finally have a way.
And I'll say really short on the send off. Plateauing is normal as you get used to achieving your goals, and it's just a new platform to push ahead next.
Because we're adaptable, we need challenge, and we get uncomfortable to change, and that our body's really smart. And it adapts
to the challenges you present, so you need to present
because
new challenges.
Yes,
yeah.
I love this. I hope this was valuable to you guys. Thank you so much for your time
and thanks for allowing me to have a chance to speak on this podcast. One more action step towards my goals.
That's he's getting there. We're gonna see him hosting more podcasts in the future, so stay tuned for that. Tell them again your name.
Again, my name is Gavin Badillo, and the company I represent is The Corner, which is you're in here right now, and the overall umbrella company, AZ Advisory Group.
That's right. This is Coach Stacy with H45 Velocity Coaching. The website is h45.club. Because we are your online exclusive fitness community.
Boom. Check it out.